Thank you all. As Debbie has said, I'm Jenny Sack. I'm the program manager at the University Career Center for Career Education Exposure. So, one of my core responsibilities is to assist graduate students in their career navigation and development. Now, just to give y'all a breakdown, because I know graduate students sometimes get confused, because I'm also a PhD candidate here at the University of Maryland. Graduate career education works differently for master's and PhD students. PhD students get support and resources from the graduate school. So typically grad students will come in and get frustrated at the University Career Center because they're expecting PhD level conversations, which you can have with myself and a few of our career counselors. But the people that PhD folks need to go to is the graduate school. There's a graduate career service in the graduate school to maximize the impact or information. Now, you are more than welcome to get a one-on-one appointment with the University Career Center. Typically, you'll see Linda Nanor with your one-on-one. If she's not available, it'll be myself or Pamela that help PhD students navigate general career issues. Sometimes it's subjective, like I don't want to do this anymore, but I'm in year 4 of my PhD. What other options do I have? Versus here are some search strategies, here are some pathways for your field, right? Between non-technical to technical. There's a difference in many different industries and how you navigate career pathway, especially if you're on the PhD level. And the biggest person in support you'll have is a faculty member because they have been through those processes and steps, right? Same for negotiation. There's professional track faculty, but then there's also emeritus status and tenureship, right? But those things are going away. So what are the benefits of being faculty, right? So we have to discuss those things amongst, our colleagues and peers. But to get started, today's discussion and point of conversation is how to evaluate an offer, right? This can be an internship offer, a job offer, a co-op offer, a graduate assistantship offer, right? There are benefits to employment. It's just understanding what those benefits and requirements are and those that are optional, right? It's not every opportunity that you get health benefits with your salary. So being mindful of, okay, what are the factors that are important when evaluating an offer? Work. It's a little slidey thing, sorry. Yeah, right. But at the University Career Center and the President's Promise, you're okay. We are located in Hornbeck Library. Anybody don't know where that is at? Don't know where? Okay, good. That y'all all know where the Hornbeck Library is. Do anybody not know where the Career Center is? Okay, good job. I'm glad you all know where we exist and where we live, because you also have free access to headshots and with our professional self-service photo booth, where you can get your free headshot, which can cost up to like $200, $300 professionally to be done. We also provide one-on-one appointments, but it's on the third floor south wing, so not the library side, but the administration side of the library. Typically, students get lost and just turn around. So I just want to make sure that you all know where we live. And our mission is to empower all University of Maryland students to realize their full career potential. The next one, Debbie. So today's workshop,
Did it skip one?
yeah, just go back one. We're going to be evaluating offers or how to evaluate an offer, make informed decisions, and then negotiation strategies for more complex problems such as counter offers and um, multiple offers, as well as navigating, yeah, complex scenarios. We'll go to the next one, Debbie. So before we get started, I want you all to reflect as y'all are eating. If y'all have y'all phone or a notepad, y'all can also think about this You can click. This one is a multi-click. That's it. And rank your top three, right? What matters most? When people are evaluating job offers or evaluating offers, they have to think about their basic needs and living. So here is a concise list of the basic things that you will seek in an offer, whether that's salary, so how much you're making, benefits. Benefits can be healthcare, retirement, other supplemental retirements, things like that, discounted from, gyms access, amenity access, work-life balance. What does that look like in that company culture? So what is the values and the mission, and am I willing to commit to represent that company as an employee? Career growth opportunities, the location, right? Where you are matters and depends on if you're an international student, domestic student, if you're looking locally, or you're willing to relocate, or not relocate. Job stability. What does this job look like in the next year, as we have experienced in the last year with the workforce changing, the furloughs, and the changing socio-political climate? How will my job, for instance, I have a lot of student appointments in STEM, and I challenge them, what would this job look like in the next 3 years? If you are developing a tool that is doing your job, what is this job outlook in 2034 when you graduate, or 2030 when you graduate? And then flexibility. So is it remote, hybrid work? Are there opportunities to negotiate that? Professional development opportunities. Is there a professional development fund? Can I go to school at the same time as working full time? Are there benefits or job credits that I can have? Professional and mentorship and leadership. So there is the difference between professional sponsorship and professional mentorship within an organization, and how that looks like. And every company is subjective, right? So how you see what mentorship and leadership and guidance and your career growth look like depends on the organization. So if you had to only choose three, and only three was given to you, rank your top three. Well, salary, yes, is one. Work-life balance, and now you have one more left. Career growth. So yeah, I hear a lot of different things. Anybody want to share their top three? Go ahead. What's your name?
Courtney.
Courtney. Go ahead, Courtney.
If I had to choose three, I would say salary, because depending on the salary, you can get your own benefits, like your own retirement plan outside of work. I would say company culture, just because I think a lot of those other things kind of get wrapped up into company culture. And then I would say, thanks.
Yes.
I would say job stability, just because of what's happening right now in the world, but I probably would pick another one if things are a bit more stable. So yeah, I'll say job stability for now.
Okay. So salary, culture, stability. Anybody else different?
Don't be shy. Come on.
What's your name? Precious.
So salary, similar, I think you can potentially roll into the benefits, but I think the benefits are really important too. The healthcare, especially in our country, with how healthcare works, it can be very expensive. Even if you have a high salary to like social stuff.
Yes.
And then I said work-life balance because I think that goes into policies and procedures. But I think culture is important, and they should be aligned. Culture can change with like leadership changes, but if policies and practices are firm in your offers and contracts, like then the things that I feel like that are important about that culture are linked still despite who's in charge.
There's a balance there. Yeah. Or I should say, legal minded. Anybody else? Yeah.
I think it's again salary is what it looks.
Yeah.
I also think work-life balance. A lot of those great self-things. I think career growth opportunities kind of encompass different facts like professional development opportunities, membership growth. I think as users for students especially, we are much used to situations where not working so something like that. To hire, more better for teachers.
There's opportunity for career development, right? Different spaces, you're not stagnant doing the same task every single day. So that's career growth and opportunity. Yeah, so let me click onto this.
And again,
Yes. So these are, some questions to ask even before thinking about accepting an offer. Why did you choose what are your top priority? What matters most to you, right? Someone who care about the salary can say compensated for the benefits, right? Healthcare, in actuality, if you work for an organization, you're only paying 10% of the prescription. So will you be able, for my $25 prescription, will I be able to cover the 90% rest of that prescription? And for someone with an internal chronic illness, I may consider that more than something than a, work culture. So thinking about subjective to who you are, what you're doing, your field that you're in, right? STEM is going to be very different than education. Education is going to be very different than, the industry, the corporate America, and very different in nonprofit and social work. So it depends on what you're doing and where you intend to go. So does my salary cover, the basic cost of living and some enjoyable free time? I think people say I work paycheck to paycheck and I still have to pay benefits. So, is there opportunity for retirement or healthcare? And what does work-life balance look like at this organization? A lot of people talk about work culture and work-life balance, but you can assess that through your interview as well as the offer that they're making for you, right? Do you have a set time, 9 to 5? Some organizations have a set time where they're working, and other organization is fluid based off the client. Sometimes you're working 50 hours with a client in 2 days versus, your 8-hour day. So depending on where you are and what spaces, what matters most to you is the first question to ask. And then what were the factors or thinking about any factors that is more important or less important. We have to evaluate, time and place and what the situation or socio-political climate. So as you have all said, priorities might change depending on a job or company. And did any of these surprise you more or less? No, right? Because it's the basic needs, right? These are the things that if we had a perfect package for an offer, these would be it, right? This would be the type of future dream job. I know I would want that, right? I have the salary, I have the benefits, I have a work life, and I can still grow and continue to learn even though I'm at my, terminal degree. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So here is how we break down evaluating an offer, or how I broke it down so that it's easier to digest. Sometimes you get 10 pages of information about the organization, all of these privacy clauses, and then get to the meat of it at the end, right? So this is what we do a lot when we help students evaluate their offer is, okay, critical questions to ask themselves. Does this or this, right? Evaluating and fielding the other offers or the offers that is currently present, and then gathering a list of questions they may have for the, the hiring manager or the person who made the offer, which sometimes is the human resource office. And then how to research and compare so that you are prepared to negotiate and how to start that negotiation process. Go ahead and do the next one. Okay, so here are a few critical questions to ask yourself. How closely does this organization and the role match my career goals? As you have known, right, different organizations have values and missions that represent the work that they do and the impact that they make on the world. This is a question that students typically, or just individuals typically skip over because, hey, this is a top 500 Fortune company and I'm going to make 6 figures, but then get defeated in your month 6 because of the culture of the organization. So how closely does this organization and the role match my career goal? Is it worth this temporary task, responsibility for a year to move on to the next? Is it necessary for my next level? what is everything included in my offer package beyond just the salary? Health benefits, company retirement contribution, annual and sick days. Do I get annual and sick days, or does that come out of my salary? So every time I take a sick day, it's coming out of my pay, right? So these are the 3 critical questions to ask. Any other questions you will ask yourself before accepting an offer? No. Go ahead, Ashley.
Looking into if there's any like commitments involved, right? So what's your flexibility if this doesn't work out in terms of it doesn't align as you thought it would? Do you have exit ability or do you go in X amount of time?
Right. The
If there's
contraction.
commitments and-
Mm-hmm. So commitment and other priorities. What's your name?
Yeah. Marlon.
Marlon. Marley,
Marlon.
Marlon, okay, I'm sorry.
I think especially for co-ops and friendships, that it's important if it's possible to better their long-term. Or if you have any commitments you don't like it, we have to.
Right, what is the attrition rate for his co-op or fellowship or internship? What is the pathway program here? Right, so yeah, think about all the critical questions that pertain to you. These are the core questions that you need to think about when it comes to career and goal alignment, but also what is your needs and what is the basic necessity that you need to survive, but also have a livable, type of environment. Um, because you won't, once you graduate, typically if it's not internships, you won't have these resources or these spaces, free legal aid or free, notary services. So these are other adulting things to think about beyond, just the salary and benefits. So here's how you start with your initial response when it comes to understanding the offer. Express genuine enthusiasm, right? Take the time to show appreciation that you got the offer. You want to think about it a little bit more. So thank you so much for this offer. I'm excited about the opportunity. This is an important decision, and I want to take the time or the chance to read and think through the offer in its entirety. It's okay to wait a couple of days to accept the offer, but make sure you know when you have to accept the offer by, because typically people give you 2 days or 2 weeks. They give you a time frame of when they want to give the offer or close this process. So be clear and always have a receipt, right? A lot of people like to call and not write things down or follow up with an email, but it is more important today to make sure you have things in writing. So follow up a receipt, because I've seen incidences where a student took too long and the employer completely ghosts them, right? So have things in receipt, be mindful of, certain communications that you're doing. And then take the time to get a full understanding of the offer. I understand the salary being offered is X, Y, and Z. Can we also talk through the benefits package in greater detail? You can reach out and talk to an HR person, right? Or you can reach out and talk to their hiring manager and see if there's a person that you can talk about the benefit package if you don't understand. It's okay, because this is your money, this is your benefits, and this is getting clarity is better than having confusion and then signing the paper of not knowing what you're accepting. And then determine the preferred timeline. So is there a deadline for when you would like a response? I want to be mindful of your time, but also think it's important to fully review and consider the offer. If you have a preference on when you like to respond to the offer, name it here, right? So this is where you'll name your offer time. Don't ask for extensions last minute. Do you need to talk to other employers? And then are there any additional factors that may delay your response time? So just giving clarity and transparency through the whole entire process, even if you have another pending offer, which we'll talk about in the end, and the complex situations. So again, take the moment to respond to the initial offer. Remember when you have to submit your decision in by, and then go back and think about, oh, now it works. go back and think about these key factors, right? My salary isn't just my salary. Do I get bonuses? Am I getting compensated for travel, for work, right? What is the base pay? Or is the salary structure maybe different? It may be by client base, or it may be by workload, or it may be by contract. It might not be by certain time frame, like from June 1st to August 4th. It might be you have to develop this system by this summer, and this is what you'll receive at the end of this contract. Okay, so I broke it down a little bit more for y'all in this chart, right? To think about it's not just benefits, it's not just healthcare, it's about retirement, future planning, life insurance, right? If anything happened to me, is my dependent secured? Is my where is my retirement going? Who is receiving the benefits of, my daily work? Work-life balance. Do I get any time off? Am I supposed to work 40 hours? I saw a post on LinkedIn about an employer um addressing a employee. It was a scenario-based thing about clocking out at 4:47 versus 5 o'clock and having to make that time up by staying a little bit later, right? What does that culture tell you? So if you're already, already witnessing that or observing that as an intern, what will your life be as a full-time employee? Because sometimes intern and co-op fellows are protected by some of the things that happen in leadership and management. So you may not see that in your internship, but this is where networks and talking to other people, hey, what do you enjoy most about your job here? Or, what is one thing that you're proud of working on? Or you have been here for so long, what have you learned about? And getting how they talk about the company, how they talk about their work is an understanding of the company culture and what they value and an employee and the employee experience. Um, because as an intern, you're also an employee, so we'll refer to that a lot. And then career growth. Is this it? Do I have to wait till this manager retire in 25 years to be able to become the next, person? And typically in education, you're probably going to be waiting a while, right? They don't like to retire because they love what they do. So what path do you have in that space? Um, in STEM, it may look a little different in the next 5 years with technology booming. What does the software development look like, or human interactions look like with computers in 2, 3 years, as much advancement we had in a year with AI. Job stability, we all know about that this year, right? Company health and long-term prospects. I'll show y'all some resources on occupational outlook within the next 5 to 10 years and how to look at that tool. And then flexibility and professional development, of course, all the extra things that are good for the soul and, employee well-being and growth. So take all that into consideration, right? Take all the aspects into consideration. So here's another breakdown of that for APA accessibility. Salary, benefits package, organization, and the position as a whole. For the professional development opportunity, if you aren't aware yet, since I'm a PhD candidate, for those who are interested in going the faculty route, it depends on the institution. It depends on the program that you're going into because they're not offering tenureship anymore. They're not offering emeritus status anymore. So what does our job stability look like if we're professional track faculty? Do anybody know what PTK are? Okay, so professional track faculty are individuals who are teaching with their PhD, but they have a year contract for teaching. So they don't get the benefits. Some do get their benefits. It depends on the clause or their contract. So I know one of my colleagues at UPenn, he's been a PTK for the last 10 years, and every year he has to renew his contract. Yet he still have teaching requirements and administrative responsibilities. So making sure they manage programs for their department or they're involved in service. So PTK, I actually saw a flyer today coming out of the Career Center to fight for bargaining rights, right? Because it's literally the expectation of a tenured professor without the tenure benefits. So I know there's a few questions about that. Go ahead, Courtney.
Is there, excuse me, is there gonna be an in-between of like BTK and is it TCK or tenure track? Yeah.
See, I don't know that yet, right? And I'm hoping to because when I graduate in a year, right, and become a Dr. Sack, I hope to teach, but I'm not going to teach in a toxic culture, right? And we know higher education institutions aren't innocent of that. So what does that look like for us? Do I need to join a bargaining committee right now to be able to set up the future? So as graduate students, we have a lot to say, but we need to put the time in to be able to like, hey, PTK is okay for some, but that's not going to replace tenureship. So when you're bargaining or when you're evaluating an offer, am I on the road to tenureship? How long will tenureship take me? How many service hours do I need? How many publications do I need? Right? Laying that all out in your offer letter now, because you can also get to tenureship and get denied tenureship. Um, there's policies and practices that needs to be changed within that. So I don't know what the in-between is, but when we find out, Courtney, or when we want to make some change, we can figure that out together. Here are some other considerations, right? Breaking it down a little bit more. For-profit salaries can be higher and room for increases generally, but job stability is really low. Depending on what organization you are among, nonprofit and NGOs, right? Benefits, insurance, time off can be more competitive. So Maryland is a great institution to work for, not because of the salary, but because of the culture and the benefits, right? We have a good salary, but it's not a competitive salary compared to other higher education institutions. However, I would choose to work at University of Maryland over another institution that I previously worked at because the benefits weren't as great. I was paying $225 for my prescription with health benefits versus my $25 here, right? So as you think about the things that you value and more important to you, what does benefits look like? Federal and local government, typically you have higher job security, but what we know as the federal government and the workforce environment, so with human services, the Department of Education, we don't know, right? Everyone's are on this journey together to figure out how this is going to impact us long term and what is the longevity of this situation that we're in. So typically it comes with higher job stability as well as benefits. So the having within Maryland working for the state, you can have the option to have a pension plan. Same for Maryland state employees. So after working here for 8 years, they will get a check after when they retire for the rest of their lives, and their beneficiary will get it too when they're not here. So when you're 65, you graduate, you have this pension because you worked for an organization who you had 10K more or less per year, but then you were working toward this pension. Now you get a check every month. Okay. Public service in general, government, nonprofit, after 10, here is public service loan forgiveness. This is still up in the air, and that's why I left it there too. It's unclear of whether it will stay, but if you work in public service in the United States, for 10 years, your student loan can be forgiven. This is typically for teachers or, our social workers and our work, nonprofit folks in the community. Yeah, so that one side. And then on the other side, right, we think about salary range listed on the job posting. If yes, where did you fall in the salary range, right? Is it in the middle of the average salary or is it below average salary? And how does your experience fit, right? There's a lot of students who have a lot of course projects and a lot of course experience, but no internships or no fellowships or no co-op or no research, and still expect 120K from their internship sometimes, right? So are we being fair not only to ourselves and our experience or realistic with our experience versus what our value is and what they can offer? I know there's some organization that will play tit for tat for you where they will 10% of it, right? They'll increase it, but they keep wanting to play the game to see how high you will go. Sometimes students or individuals go too high where they can't afford the individual and they lose their opportunity. Or sometimes students or individuals lowball themselves and can never meet the average salary against their counterparts or peers because where they started from. Does that make sense? Okay, that makes sense to everybody. Okay. So here is some research compensation. So we have Bureau of Labor Statistics. We go to the BLS website for any salary information. There are other websites out there, but this is a national government organization tool that we use just, for reputable purposes. Glassdoor.com will have some salary ranges, but and that's more of an open public space where people are more willing to share. And then Google search, right? Rabbit hole, ChatGPT is not always correct, but you can also get a starting number there and then see it in comparison to other position descriptions that they may have out there. There is a UMD First Destination Grad Survey report that we compile every year. So we follow where our students go and how much they make and what role they get into. So that's where you can also think about and evaluate, okay, is this a good offer for an entry level role, right? I have some internship experience, I have some publications, I also have, other experiences, other work experience I have that's related to this role. So I think I can go 10 to 15K more. And you do that by going to this occupational outlook handbook. Typically, I would go through it with you, but on here is the QR code. This is a federal website that shows occupational, different occupation, their job summary, and sometimes it will have the medium. So if you see here, it'll have the median pay for what year it was. And then we could base off of the, that, but also they consider cost of living. But the cost of living calculator will be a little bit more on par with what you're seeking and looking at. So, and this is the website. So this is how you will look up at wage data by state and occupation. So if I am getting a job offer in Los Angeles, I've never been there before. I know it's very expensive. How much are people making as a, I don't know, data analyst? How much people are making as a junior faculty, right? You can go on here and do some salary comparison by state and occupation. And then here is the cost of living calculator. So I did this yesterday to see what is the difference and why we are struggling sometimes to meet our needs, right? Because if you are coming, Baltimore is only 30 to 40 minutes away from DC on a good day, on a good driving day. And here you can see the average household or average income price of a house versus rent in Baltimore versus DC. You need to make double. Now, if you are traveling from Baltimore to DC every day, what is different is how much you'll be spending for food and groceries or lunch or just, a coffee. So thinking about what is the value? What is the value of my salary and how far it can go? So 75K may look great, but here it's telling me that I need at least 104K to be able to meet my needs from what I'm used to regularly in Baltimore if I relocate to Washington, DC. So thinking about the cost of living is important because that's your day-to-day gas, your day-to-day groceries, right? Milk, eggs, water, anything that if you pack lunch every day, will you still be struggling if you have this 70 or what was the offer? 95K was the offer. And this is probably 9K below cost of living. So if I see that, if typically they say 5 to 10K more, but it also depends on, okay, what is the average salary by wage and state? So you need to do some research and some work on, okay, wage and state costs, cost of living costs. How much do I need to make versus how much I need to survive. Okay, so those are things to evaluate in your offer as well. And here is the cost of living calculator. We used to use bank rate, but now pay scale have a more updated, robust version that shows, these things. The daily cost of living, not just the average cost of living, but, phone bill, gas, energy bill, all the other tax things that you have to do to live, right? Okay, so we're almost there. Okay, and then after you have your research, you've evaluated your offer for all of the things and the factors and elements that are important to you and necessary. And this will be great to have if I needed it. And then you did a cost of living calculation as well as a wage and state occupation and made that cross comparison. So here is the list of questions, and now you come with your list of questions. So as Precious was saying, here are other things that I would think about asking or critical questions to ask. Make sure you have your questions prepared because the counter offers are really fast because they want to close the loop as fast and spend as little as possible. But they do want you to negotiate. So they always, sometimes organizations offer lower than what they can offer you. Well, most of the time. So because they're expecting you to negotiate. So if you're confused about the benefit package, you can always come and break it down at the Career Center. Career counselors see offer letters from all different organizations, whether it's STEM, non-STEM, co-op, fellowships, internships, for course credits, right? There are many different offer letters. So you can always speak to us and we'll tell you, hey, this might be a better benefits package than what you're thinking for what is given and the responsibilities. So we can maybe sometimes have a reality check with a career or, hey, they're really lowballing you. I don't think this internship is worth it or this co-op is worth it. Maybe you can ask for this to negotiate, but if you don't negotiate and accept this offer, what is going to happen? Or what is your other prospects or do you have any? And then if there is a bonus structure, which there typically is for industry related roles, what is the average percentage and what do you need to do to meet it? So what is your metric of success? How do I know when I get my next bonus if it's not in the offer letter? How are you evaluating me and what I deserve? Okay. So how do performance reviews take place? Are they yearly? Are they midterms? And what happens at these performance reviews? At the University of Maryland, we have about 3 of them in a year to evaluate our progress. But that also goes into whether we get cost of living, we get cost of living transmission, whether we get a merit pay or whether we get a little pay based off of cost of living and our experiences. Flexible work arrangements. Am I hybrid, right? Or if this work is, if I'm traveling for work for a week, am I able to recover the next week, or are you expecting me in the office the next week? Right? There's a lot of folks that travel outside of the country and then they have to return to work the next day. Is that something you expect of me? And then pre-planned vacation and concern about leave. I know when I came to Maryland, I had I had a trip already planned because it's not vacation. I had a trip to Southeast Asia that was 4 weeks, and my supervisor wanted to start on the day that I had to leave for my trip. So being transparent about something that was already paid for and planned and is a 3-week time commitment, and how I can compromise, right? Do you want me to start earlier or do you, and then I can take. So how can that work with my pre-planned, because there's also anniversaries and weddings and things that happen during job search. So communicate that. And then push back the start date. If you want to push back the start date, like I said before, what would that, compromise? Or thinking about, how to communicate that in a way? Is there any flexibility to start later due to my current role or due to the transition needs? If not, can we talk about a little bit more of like how we can navigate this, right? It's all about communication, transparency, but also saying it in a way that it contributes to both you and the organization. It's a strategy game sometimes. Being stealth about it is going to help you in the long run. So now you're at negotiation, right? But like I said, it's a mutual agreement. It's not about who's winning or who's losing. It's about a compromise between the two parties that are, doing the negotiating, finding a common ground. So here is how to follow up with a response. Thank you again for extending the offer of 95K. I'm very enthusiastic about this opportunity and the prospect of joining the team based on my market research for entry-level software engineering positions in the DC metro area at a Fortune 500 company, and considering the valuable experience gained from my full-time internship last summer, I'm seeking a salary in a range of 100K to align with my qualification, considering my graduate degree, cost of living in Washington, DC area, and current market value for this role. I'm confident that I can deliver significant value and look forward to discussing this specific compensation detail further, right? And this is a typical response after it's been an initial response, an offer was given that, wasn't agreed upon, and then this is the final, conversation of the negotiating the salary offer. Now, there could be a little bit tweak in, before delivery, but sometimes you also have to be direct, and it depends on the person that you're negotiating with. So are they, more silly and direct, or they direct? It takes a skill to communicate this, right? But don't be afraid to communicate what your qualifications are, how much you are seeking, and if it aligns with the average salary of that role. Because counter offers, right? You can send it as an email, but speaking over the phone, setting a time. So don't give counter offers immediately. Make sure you set a time and place, and that person knows that this is going to be a negotiation discussion, because they're not caught off guard with it. When somebody is caught off guard with something, they're not as willing to be, to respond or react at the moment. Or maybe they don't have the information that is needed to negotiate, and then you have to do it again. So give them that space and say, hey, is there room or room to discuss a negotiation, or room to negotiate some of these benefits that are on the offer letter due to some of my research, and if you cannot agree, right, so what I said before is like having the things that are necessary for you, and these things are great if they come with it. So making a personal required list and a wish list, because that's where your boundary is. If you don't know what your boundary is or where your limit is, you will fall for anything, right? So that's also the key to negotiating, is knowing your boundary and where you will not stoop below, because then that shows what your value is. Now, I know there are special circumstances, like I'm a first generation college student and I have to pay for certain things. So having a job or not having a job is not feasible for me. So what is the solution, or how can I navigate this as a PhD candidate, and, trying to figure out what is my value? Those are more subjective questions and things that you have to really sit and reflect on. Am I going to compromise my relationship for this opportunity, or am I going to compromise my health, right? What is important in the time and space that I have it now? And then what happens if we cannot agree? Regardless of the outcome, express your gratitude and bring closure. You never ghost anyone because you're disappointed in the offer, but also see it as a growth and learning point if it is your first offer. Be fair and understanding, as I said before. Will you hire you at that rate, right? And being honest, or asking your friend, hey, these are my experiences. Would you hire me at this rate and for this role? Or see an expert at the Career Center if you want, some transparency and honesty. And then even if you don't take the position, you may work with them. Just as much as, students talk and graduate students talk, recruiters talk, and we get a lot of those feedback, right? We know when students renege, so we'll talk about that. So know your value, don't settle, and consider the constraints. If you're interviewing with multiple companies and receive multiple offers, only negotiate with the one you're serious with. Don't play the negotiation game with 5, 6 people, because that's not a professional respect, right? It just gives some grace and respect to the recruiters who are trying to and we're trying to recruit you and get you into the doors. So if you're seriously interested in other companies, reach out to them and let you know you received an offer to accept X, Y, and Z deadline, and you're waiting to hear back from that organization and seeing like, hey, I'm really interested in y'all. However, like I have to give it a decision. So do y'all have any updates on this recruitment process? And that may make them move faster and give you an offer, right? It may not, it may be like, okay, good luck with your journey. But you also have to consider that constraint. If you have multiple offers at one time, be careful not to play the companies against one another. Like I said, only negotiate with the company you are serious about working with at the end of the day. And you do not need to send one company's offer letter to another. I know there's people who is like, send the other offer letter and show them that you're getting 30K more here. No, that's not a good practice. So don't do that. There's students who have done that. And you also don't need to tell them what other companies are. Accept it, yet waiting on another offer. Do not accept an offer thinking I can renegotiate and take another job later, right? You could burn bridges with that organization or recruiter in the future. And this is more so for my STEM folks who have to be hired a year out because of clearances and things like that, where you have to accept your job offer like the August before you graduate. You could hurt your chances with other organizations in the future. So think about, I always say, yeah, you can burn bridges, but bridges can be built again. Do you have those resources to build those bridges again? And what decision, and then is it worth the bridge being built? That's with organizations and people, but you can hurt your chances. And it's unethical to accept a job offer and then back out before you start to pursue a better offer somewhere else. If you need to make a decision, be transparent about that. It's a professional thing to do because your career identity and your professional identity follows you. You may say, hey, I'm done with this job, but it will follow you in the future, especially someone who is a recruiting person who works with recruiters and knows the longevity of these spaces. You don't know you don't know who knows who, okay? And then we also have some guidelines for reneging. So, like I said, your professional identity, damage to your own professional reputation and of the University of Maryland. So not only are you, damaging your professional reputation, but you are also impacting the University of Maryland experience. But they also recruiters go to many different organizations. So they may work for Deloitte today and work for PwC tomorrow because that's how recruitment and acquisition work. So it's like I said, reneging means you accepted an offer and then you go back and say, I don't want this job anymore. I want a better offer, right? At the UCC, we'll lock you out of your handshake if you renege. So, and we find out about you reneging because there are students who have had 3 offers, accepted all 3 offers at the same time for their own security, but yet this is how companies and organizations find out. I know we're graduate students, so we're a little bit more professional and respectful, hopefully, of that. But if sometimes you're in sticky situations because of toxic work environment or what Marlon said about, co-ops not being the best experience, then that's when you have to navigate those reneging situations with a career coach. Okay. And then in summary, understand the whole package of your offer and do not accept just for the sake of having a job. So the salary and the number isn't the final offer. So evaluate all parts of your offer. Salary should not be focused. Strategize negotiating a job offer. Write your emails. Establish the floor. So what is your boundary? What is your limitation? And then express preferences, but be fair, right? Being real with yourself, being honest about your ask. Do not accept a job offer planning to pursue a better offer for your security because it's unethical in the professional workforce. And then remember to be grateful and maintain good relationships with employers if things do not work out, especially in the offer. This is more so when people have pathway programs, internships, and they get a full-time offer and was not satisfied with that. So, but keep your professional boundaries. Okay. I'm sorry I had to rush the last bit of it, but the presentation is going to go out to all you so that you can have the resource, the cost of living calculator, But think about what one strategy, since we are running out of time, that you would take with you or use for future negotiations or current negotiations. That's my little last piece of thought bubble. Any questions or clarifications from the presentation? We have about 3 minutes. All right, Debbie.
That would be great.
So I was just curious, is it ever happened before, like somebody lost the job offer, like to the process of negotiation?
No, I think because they already let that company go, it's just an aftertaste, right? But it also, if we found out about it, like who else knows about it? Because it left just a bad taste in that employee. Like, and the student thought it was, not intentional. The student thought it was okay. But this is, not good practice, right? And we tell students that all the time. It's, how far can you go? But if you do the basic negotiations, the research, you know what your value is, or you know what the value is supposed to be. And the student just accepted it because it was their first time getting all these offers. So, and they were a grad student. So, go ahead. Of course.
So I had advice from my advisor not to negotiate salary. He didn't know what I was given. And the reason you had that, well, I had a difficult talk, like, back and forth on should we negotiate or not. And so the benefits, like he was saying, was that they usually don't have a lot of room to move for higher positions. And also like relationship wise, like it may seem kind of greedy to ask for more, but I thought I don't want to move on myself, especially, as a person of color or as a woman, we tend to do that. So I did want to end up asking for more in these positions, but I was wondering, do you ever
In a negotiating.
I did ask for more, I'm in the negotiation.
Okay,
right now.
okay.
I haven't heard back yet, but I was wondering if you ever advise against asking for more, or just pursuing kind of that like relationship and just being grateful rather than kind of pushing for, an extra couple thousand.
It depends, right? It's subjective. So even within my own full-time role, right? Everyone is like, we got the highest, but I still wanted to negotiate because it wasn't the average salary for this role across the institution. So I did my research, right? And I know what value I bring to it. But that is a complicated space, right? Your advisors, are they a woman, a male? And that's typical. I don't wanna like distinguish gender, right? Because I think it's for any both individual going into the tenureship space or the academic space, it's a hard space right now because they don't even understand what their value is due to the current climate, right? But I don't ever advise, and I used to, right? But until when I came into this role and saw the different offer letters and the different for the same role between, men and women, between certain student names versus, there's the different biases out there for certain spaces, but my biggest question is, would you rather fail or would you rather regret? And for me, I would have regretted if I didn't negotiate this salary because I knew it wasn't enough to meet my cost of living here. I know that as a PhD candidate, I cannot get another job. Right, so working full time and we're being a PhD candidate. What is my limitation? So for you, what is the benefits, and then what is the metric for success to get an salary promotion? And you can also talk to the department people without talking to the hiring manager. So is there space for people in that space so you can connect with that aren't, a stakeholder in your evaluation? But I would never advise against negotiating because I know that this discriminatory practice is education to me. But if you have any more one-on-one questions, you can always schedule an appointment, a one-on-one appointment at the University Career Center. PhD students should go to the graduate school. They're in the midst of hiring a graduate coordinator, but we do more than that. We do mock interviews. A lot of people, get to get the interview, but don't do well in the interview. So please
do a mock interview regardless of what stage you're in. And then schedule an appointment if you need one-on-one conversation, CVs, cover letter, personal statements, we work on a lot of this too. You're welcome.
Right. Raise your hand if you're ready to negotiate, right? Like, I'm ready to negotiate, I'm not even looking for a new job, but the Career Center, Jenny, people like Jenny are here to help. So take advantage of it. So this is so comprehensive and so helpful. So I'm glad you all can take advantage of this today.
Yeah, it's gonna be our free headshot.
Exactly, get your free headshot. So if you didn't know it, it's Graduate Student Appreciation Week. And there are events all week, sponsored by Grad Student Life. So today there is a carnival from 4 to 7:30 in the Colony Ballroom in this building. Tomorrow there's a happy hour. Thursday there's a food truck festival. I know y'all like free food. And Friday there's an ice cream social. So probably the easiest thing to do is get on Instagram, look up Grad Student Life, and you can get all the information. Our last workshop is on intellectual property rights. That's going to be on Zoom on the 21st. I will send you all a reminder. And great to see you. Have a great week, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Can you tell me to put the number to then they expose things? I asked him.
Typically, if you have the Japanese kind of meetup,
I'm a little busy right now, but hopefully.
Are you looking for like operator housing?
Yeah.
You wanna work with UX, with that, have a government contractor.
Yes, I know.
Just want to wrap up on the bags. Turn the back to you.
They give their own rules. Oh, Carol, Carol, then ask about.
Yeah.
When the offer is made, when we go to these others.
Okay.
Good luck on the.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to figure out to extra? Okay. And there really is some popcorn out there. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
That's so fun. So thank you so much. What's the next?
I have the grad student.
Here's one that's already wrapped up. There we go.
Oh, you did.
I would do roll. But how is one the list? You'll get the email students, you what we send your students.
Thank you, yeah. So,
Okay. Just have someone from the grad school presenting this sheet. Susan Mark.
team, yeah. Yeah, well, they restructured.
Yeah, and she's doing her own thing now, but this was very motivating. So, yeah.
And hopefully they got.
Oh, and your microphone.
Oh.
Yeah, I have that.
I didn't even notice it was there. But thank you, Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, my staff took a long time to respond and things, like, it's been a.
It all
lot
worked
of
out.
take.
You know, I start something well ahead of time, so I can make sure I get them. Calendar, I love. Yeah, oh, good. Yeah. Busy time.
Yeah.
Thank you, time, right? You and all the rest of people, yeah. They've been all, they've been. And people watch our recording. So I will give you an update maybe over the summer, just to get.
Good. Oh, I'm quick. I'm the more introvert versus actually. Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Hey, that. Yeah. Hopefully we can have that.
Okay.
Well, if not, then we'll see you.
So seriously. So,
They had at the,
I think that was showing.
oh, okay.
But I know he got the trucks, I think that the trucks are here to stand. Yeah. So, just go on.
Okay, if the, tractor.
Traffic is too fun.
Just not imagine on
Yeah, so. Okay.
Yes, I do.
Their events in our.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that, okay. Well, there's somebody else. And it's this way they don't find the.
It takes me a little bit. There's you gotta go across the mall. Okay. Okay, that near you. I used to work at yes. Well, I rented when I was first year grad. Here.
Yeah.
Try and feed it down. I have to go across the mall. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good one, Jenny, thanks again. Oh, so funny. All right, we did it. Yay. Okay. Let me stop all of this. Thank you so much for your help. Glad you got to come and eat. And yeah, so we ran out of rice, like
Yeah,
very early on.
they were very, people really.
They were
like the
ricey
food.
people. Okay. So next time I will order, do you think I should order the same amount of black beans? Because it looked like there was still some in there.
But I think that some students are,
Vegetarian
yeah.
and vegan, yeah.
is a good base for that.
Yes, yes.
So it might be nice to make an announcement about seconds. So if
Oh,
the
yeah, I
second-
usually do that at the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I think some students ate and then immediately went back. And before the time had finished for other students to get food.
oh,
So
okay.
I think an announcement